Astonishing Spinosaurus. It's out. The long-rumored scimitar-spined Spinosaurus is now out, and it's been named Spinosaurus mirabilis or mirabilis. I haven't even heard it said out loud yet. I'll be curious to see. This specimen might settle the debate over whether Spinosaurus is an aquatic pursuit predator, spending the majority of its time in the water, actively swimming and hunting down fish like an otter, or was it more of a shorebird like gigantic big heron? Well, they have lots to say in their paper, and let's just jump right in. The paper is led by Paul Sereno. Second author is Daniel Vidal. What an incredible 1-2 punch, and the lineup behind that is amazing as well. These folks found some of the most important specimens in the last... They found this unbelievably gorgeous, beautiful artwork that they provided in 3D models of a Spinosaurus with a new species of Spinosaurus with this cool, incredibly tall crest. They note that this crest would be the tallest crest of any of these dinosaurs that are roaming around. And it makes sense. The crest that they found not one, but they found 3 crests. So where do they find this? It's a place called Gengebi, and Gengebi is in Niger. And this place was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, look at this map. It's all Sahara. And if you wonder why people talk about sub-Sahara, this is Africa. That's the Sahara. So when they say sub-Sahara, they mean everything under the giant desert. And this new locality is depending on if you're looking at their first locality or their second locality that they found between 3, which is a great name. No water, the holotype is from a place called No Water, No Goat is what it translates to. Sirig Teghat. No idea if I said that right. But they went and they found, middle of nowhere, some amazing specimens. And it's 300 to 600 miles from the nearest marine rocks. It's in sediment, it's fluvial sediment that indicates it's a riparian habitat. In fact, reading about it, we thought of the Morrison Formation. And it was found with the most important thing to me in this entire paper is they have a new Riparian genus and a new Titanosaur genus. I almost stopped reading the paper there and said, I'll wait for that. But it is Spinosaurus, and I was curious. They also found a Carcharodontosaurus skull and partial skeleton. Stay tuned. As well as a large lungfish or polypterid. And I'm sure there's other specimens that they will come across as they work through their jackets that they collected. So the specimens, a holotype is MNBHJEN1, and it was about 24 feet long or so is their guess. They have 3 characters that separate it from Spinosaurus aegyptiacus. The first being the crest, the big scimitar crest. The second one is the proportions of the snout, long and low, even built different than the Spinosaurus, traditional Spinosaurus snout of the aegyptiacus. And then the third one they had is the greater spacing in the posterior teeth on the maxilla. And we'll look at those a little bit later. But if you're just here to get the highlights, they found a skull. This is the skull they found. These are the bones. At the holotype locality, they found these additional skull elements at another locality. And they put them all together to build this gorgeous specimen. And because they have 3 crests, I was dubious of the crest. I was like, I don't know. But they showed the Spinosaurus base of the Spinosaurus crest, because all Spinosaurs have crests. We have not found a Spinosaur skull on that part that doesn't have a crest. So they must fuse these at very, very early age to get the crest. The aegyptiacus crest is very elongate, whereas the mirabilis crest is very narrow and tall. And you can see that on these diagrams here. Great work. The study shows not only did it have a crest, but they looked at the crest of modern birds. So they thankfully defined what a casque is versus what a crest is, and they compare it to the helmeted guinea fowl, my apologies, and they look at it compared to a couple of birds you might not know of, as well as the cassowary. And they note the vascularization and the keratinous sheath that are present on these birds. And that's where they get the extended length of the horn or the crest, because they found a crest and none of these crests are complete. So the holotype's crest is like this, and as you see in this drawing here, the cross-hatching is a little bit more on another specimen, and they're guesstimating it went a little bit higher, and then they added that keratin based on modern birds. That's just a decision they made. Now, when you look at the crests, they argue that crests are for signaling in the birds today. And when you take this tall crest combined with a tall sail in the back and on the tail, their argument is these crests and these sails were being used for communication and display, like many birds use their crests for today. They weren't being used in an aquatic fashion, which is a pretty bold statement on their part, and they make it multiple times. They then look at a principal components analysis, which is a really cool way of objectively taking measurements and making big comparisons about shape. And they found that the first principal components axis, which was over 90% of the entire variability, was by size. They had 4 orders of magnitude sized animals in their analysis. So even though they did logs and they did some math methodologies to try to reduce the impact of size, you just can't when you have that large of a size delta. So that's cool in the sense that, yeah, the math worked and it showed big and small. But their other 2 axes were a lot more illustrative. And when they plotted Spinosaurus, it didn't plot anywhere. It plotted in between these diving birds, like the anhinga, the snake-necked bird, and the herons and shorebirds. So we'll get into deeper as to what that means. But they did show that Spinosaurus plots nowhere near any other dinosaur, which was cool to see because it is a weird dinosaur. The third part of their paper talked about Spinosaurs through time and how in the Jurassic, the 2 lineages of Spinosaurs split. Now, we don't know the fossil origins of Spinosaurs. They are hints and tantalizing hints of them, but we don't have any great material. However, what we do know is there's 2 groups of Spinosaurs, the Baryonychines and the Spinosaurines. And they differ. I always remember how they differ if you have their lower jaw, because on the Baryonychines, of which Suchomimus was the last surviving member of it, I believe, it has this really long, narrow jaw with lots of tiny teeth in it. And the Spinosaurines' jaws are long, but they V out at the back. They're a bit wider, and the teeth are bigger and less numerous and more widely spaced. And they're the ones that go on into the late Cretaceous that get to be supergiant. So they do a cladogram. They show that after 1 million trees, that their new Spinosaurus, a sister taxon with the Spinosaurus that's known, aegyptiacus, but they cite the 3 characters that separate it from that taxon, making it its own valid species. And to recap, this new individual was found hundreds of miles away from the Tethys Sea, where all the other Spinosaurs have been found, is around this ancient seaway. And it's in a riparian environment where there was no large lake, gigantic rivers, seemingly, and definitely no marine waters for it to go swim and pull all of these huge fish out of, like it's been thought. So as a result, they argue that this new specimen in this new locality, which turns out isn't even new, it was known in the 1950s, but the material was mentioned in a geological journal. The material's been lost, but always reading the old literature, someone somewhere realized, hey, we should go revisit that. And they hit gold. And this is way inland, and it consists of 3 crests they found. So if you doubt the crest is legit. How tall it is, well, that's up for debate potentially. But this is exciting news because from this camp, the Spinosaurus was not an aquatic pursuit predator. It was a shore living creature picking off fish based on the fact that its body plots in between these the wading birds and the diving birds. Super neat to see this. I'm very excited to see more research come out on these localities. They have other specimens, I'm sure. They'll go back and dig up more. So who am I? I'm Dr. Brian Curtis. I'm a paleontologist here at Fossil Crates. Thank you all kindly for watching to the end. I appreciate that greatly. Feel free to like, subscribe, tell your friends and family how cool it is. Check out our other social media pages as well. and I'm certain that I will respond. I respond to all the comments. I'm the person that does it. Thank you kindly. Adios.